Hi there, I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, we have the lovely Keegan Stanton. Welcome to the program, Keegan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great. It's great. Now, viewers might wonder why my head seems to be floating in the middle of a piano, but I have this background here for a specific reason because I understand during lockdown you've put some of your spare time to really good use and have taken up learning the piano.
I've tried to, yeah. I mean, I'm progressing slowly, but progressing nonetheless.
What made you decide to pick piano?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. So, my partner plays piano, and I've always wanted to learn it because I've always been musical. But actually, not to just make this all about work, but I recently got more into the technical side of my role in marketing. So I've recognised I've got quite a programmatic, logical brain. And when my partner was showing me how he would learn a song or whatever, he would refer to it in numbers on his hand, 1 to 5, and then
Okay.
he'd play a sequence. So in that regard, I was like, oh, I memorize things very quickly, so I just became quite natural at it. But yeah, it was a natural thing to engage my brain during lockdown.
Right. So do you play during meetings then at all, or is it just sort of extracurricular?
Oh my gosh, I should do that. I'm so going to speak to my manager about this. No, extracurricular, and also my son Austin, who's 5, he has just started piano lessons as well, the week before the last lockdown. So we're both learning it together. So we just do it in evenings and stuff.
It's that's quite a cool thing to do with children, I guess. You know, you're both learning, it's experiencing something together, it's a learning path,
Yeah,
seeing
I mean,
who can learn the more complicated things quicker.
I think it's me, but he'd probably argue. Well, most of the time we play the Xbox, so it's nice to drag him away to do something creative, and he's super musically minded as well. So yeah, it's nice, and it's
Ah,
nice to have music in the house when there's like no people around and we're all just
that is true. It's slightly nicer than just putting Spotify on, for instance.
yeah, exactly. Although nothing wrong with a good Disney soundtrack middle of the day.
No, no, nothing wrong with that. My children definitely like playing Disney, shall I say.
That was
So
that was for me, not the child.
oh,
The
that was
soundtrack.
for you, right. It's okay. Occasionally, I might put on a Disney thing. Occasionally.
You talking about a put on a costume or a soundtrack? Because I'm not sure.
Soundtrack. I don't generally dress up as Disney costume. I dress up in other things. I have a full ninja outfit, for instance, but no, I don't. For the benefit of viewers watching this, I do not dress up as Disney characters.
I'd like to see a ninja though. Maybe next time.
Definitely, I actually turned up at a user group about a year and a half ago dressed as a ninja, admittedly without the weaponry because I would have been arrested because I travelled on the underground. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
didn't
Cool.
take the underground. I didn't take the weaponry with me. I did get some very strange looks as to why I was dressed as a ninja, but you know, sometimes ninjas are visible.
Are you in London? Like everyone's different in London. Be who you want to be, right?
Indeed. So going from music to the Oops Factor, what story do you have to share with us today?
Oh, yes. Okay, so there's a slight link to the music story. So one of the reasons that I decided to encourage my son to do piano lessons is because he also has quite a programmatic brain. And
Okay.
yeah, so the kind of the build up to the oops factor, um, since my son was, he's now 5, since he was like 2 years old, I've always noticed that he has quite a particular way of doing things. It would be very much, I mean, I know every child has to have their sandwiches and specifically cut triangles that are equilateral and that sort of thing. but
With or without crust, depending on the child's version of what they prefer. Yes.
indeed, and it's always chocolate spread, cheese or ham, right? So, or maybe jam sometimes as well. But yeah, he's always like it being like that, but more so particular than that. Like very much, if his pillow was not in the right positioning, he would have a meltdown, or
Yeah.
he would, yeah. And if we'd be in a social situation and he maybe feel embarrassed or awkward, and it would he'd become so clingy to myself. Um, And so for a long time, I thought he might be on the autistic spectrum or have some sort of mental health, learning disability, something like that. But my family, my family as I was growing up, they would kind of empathise, sympathise, but also be very much, you just need more boundaries in place, and but he's very clingy to you. You need to help make him independent. But I suppose my gut was not just coming from the mother perspective, but that he needed a bit more emotional encouragement. So anyway, I'm
it's difficult. No, it's fine. It's difficult when your family, who, as especially one's parents who have had children and stuff, and then they start saying, well, don't worry, it's just a bit rowdy or just needs a bit more freedom, and bigging him up and stuff, and you're thinking, does he, doesn't he? It's difficult.
Exactly. And in our family, there's very much on my father's side like a kind of macho exterior type thing, and my son is obviously a boy, and he's my brother's son, Tate. He's only 6 months older, and he is very much a prove how strong I am, climb everything, like a typical type of boy. Whereas I think my son, he's always been a bit more of a sensitive character inside. So it was always very much a case of, you just need to don't mother him, push him out of his comfort. Which I am a big believer in, but I'm also very much a believer in even children have a mindset and a mind of their own, and they're interpreting things all the time. So very much a believer and just trying to understand that and learn that. So
definitely. So what went on then? How did things continue?
So yeah, it was like that for a while, and then my husband and I separated, so my son was father. And went through that whole rough patch, but it wasn't too bad for Austin. But as time went on, I just recognised he was more kind of antisocial with other children, and it didn't seem intentional. It seemed almost like he didn't know what to do. So we would be at a party with other children, and they'd all sit around having their picnic on a blanket, and he would just sit on his own. And then he's always been very much into technology, and I think it's because he zones out into it. He loves his tech. I reckon he's going to be a coder one day. That's my thought.
Pro developer in the making.
Yeah, like indeed. Let's throw him in a couple of years. It'll be fine. But yeah, so then he basically, when he joined a new school, like real school, big school, I said to his teacher, that I think he might be autistic, and she said, "Well, watch out for it." And then after a few weeks, it was kind of like, no, he is quite social, and we don't feel that way. So you go along with it because you're not entirely sure. But then this year, COVID year, I hate saying that was last year, but he moved into a new class with a teacher that has a son with Asperger's autism, which is high functioning, and within 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of him being in her class, she called me, and I said, I felt relief when she called me, because I was like, someone has picked it up. She called me in, and we had a really great chat about, she thinks he's got Asperger's and ADHD potentially.
Okay.
That was kind of how it proceeded to more of
so as you said, you felt relieved, obviously somebody has recognized some symptoms, and I guess a bit annoyed that previous people hadn't, but you can't blame everybody. We're not all professionals in the area. But how have you been able to support him since, obviously, as you said, learning piano and stuff, but what sort of things have you been able now to put in place now that you sort of realize?
So I mean, it's been difficult because the school were great, really, really great, but then lockdown hit, and it's the pressure of obviously doing homeschooling with a child that has a lot of energy and has particular needs. Because what I've learned over time from his behaviour is that some of the reasons why he has an outburst is actually because I'm not being clear in how I'm communicating. So I would say to him, he'd say, "Mummy, I want my chocolate spread sandwich cut into perfectly equilateral triangles." And I would say from the top of the stairs, "Oh, I'll do it now. It'll be 1 minute." in the meantime, he's in the lounge having a meltdown, and it's like, what's going on? And it took me quite a while to recognize that it's because I was contradicting myself, because I was saying, I'll do it now, but I'll be there in 1 minute. And he was going, you said you'd do it now. He didn't understand. So a lot of trying to recognize my own behavior around him and how that's actually having an impact, because having a child that's potentially autistic, you know, it has its challenges, and some days it takes working full time and, you know, doing different things, it takes its toll. But actually, by supporting him more, by listening more, I've been able to kind of do that a little bit and help him too. So yeah, that's one thing. And yeah.
So how's no, it's fine. So how would you say he's doing now? Now that you know, now you've sort of got a bit of a better support structure in place, hopefully.
He's he's doing better. In fact, a lot better actually. We've learned to negotiate in his language, because it's very much a case of he doesn't see the point in doing things. Like his teacher said this to me. She said, he's one of those that you'll ask him what's 4 + 6, and he'll say 10, and then you'll ask him to repeat it, and he'll go, why am I repeating it? Like, I've just told you the answer. It's inefficient. Yeah. This is why I think he's going to be great in the world of tech one day. Sorry, I can't remember the question. I've just gone off on a tangent there.
I was saying in terms of him doing better now that you understand you've got a support structure in place. As you were saying, you can negotiate in his language because you're understanding it better now.
Yeah, exactly. So he's become a lot more calm, and part of it has been, I think, in society there's a lot of information rammed down everyone's throat, which is, a lot of it is there for the right reasons, like encouraging less screen time, or, you know, more outdoors, or parents to be really thoughtful about children's emotions. And I have a degree in psychology, and I'm really passionate about this stuff. But equally, there has to be an element of giving yourself a break, because my oops factor came very quickly after I learned that Austin is potentially autistic, where I just had a bit of an internal meltdown, because you have such high expectations for yourself, whilst also trying to succeed in other things. So yeah, I think that one of the main things is just allowing him to do what he enjoys, like the Xbox, but teaching him why there needs to be a balance. And actually, what I've learned as well is that's my challenge. That's my challenge, is to make sure he's interested in more than just the methodical programmatic activities, you know?
Yes. Try and expose him and, you know, widen the boundaries and interests. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're quite fortunate because he likes to go outside a lot. So we do a lot of walking, we've got animals and stuff. So it's a bit of a drag him outside exercise, and then he loves it. But yeah, a massive thing that I've learned is when I'm relaxed, he's relaxed. So doing joint activities together seems like a bit of a chore sometimes, because you've got a lot on, but actually it makes us both feel better. So you can throw yourself out there into the outdoors and just try and put that structure in.
Definitely. So what would your advice be to parents who have children who, let's say, aren't of the norm?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, because my internet's very unstable.
That's fine. And so what would your advice be to parents who have children who, let's say, are not of the norm, but they haven't necessarily been diagnosed or yet been seen by a professional to check? How would you suggest 1 or 2 tips or pointers for them to do?
Okay, 1 or 2 tips. Firstly, trust your gut, because I wish I'd have sought help autonomously earlier, instead of waiting for the school to recognise. Now, I did do the right thing by highlighting it, but I looking back, I could have probably done more, but I was questioning my own gut as a mother, and I think you know these things. Yeah. So that would be tip 1. Tip number 2, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I need to follow this myself. Try and learn more about, if you have a suspicion, if this conversation's starting and something like autism is kind of put out there as a potential, try and learn
and let's just point out, it's not just autism. You know, there are things like Asperger's, or, you know, there's a very large scale of things, and autism is quite extreme, but there are a variety of other things, ADHD and Asperger's, which are on the spectrum as well. So
exactly. And I think I felt quite overwhelmed by it all. Because at first, because like I just allowed myself to go along with things instead of going with my gut, I think that was easier. Then as soon as it was like, well, we've had this conversation, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was overwhelming. And still to this day, I have my sister sending me Reddit articles saying, read about this, join this group or whatever, because I think being informed makes you feel empowered to deal with it better.
Definitely. Wow. Keegan, that's really I think a very powerful message to all of us. We all treasure our children. We all like to think that, as you know, I have a son who's a little younger than yours. My one has just turned 4 in January. He has similar characteristics to your son. Although we've had him assessed and he's not. He's just hyper intelligent, but he does very logical side of things. The emotional side and the social side is difficult at times. So I resonate there. But people, if you have a child like that, or people do, number one, make sure you get the right help and resource and support there that's necessary. And if your gut tells you something, then follow your gut. And number two, don't be afraid to reach out to those around you for support, because it's difficult to do it on our own, and having a support structure there is important.
So true. That is so true.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Viewers, we hope that you've learned something important from this, whether you do or you don't have children. Feel free to check out the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel and check out the blog. And if you would like to come and share your own Oops Factor story, hit the link below, fill in your details, and I'll have you on the show. Have a great day.